Welcome to Innovation Alchemy. My name is Adam Castle. I am your host, and this is the podcast that explores the magic, the mess, and the mastery of innovation and those who are bold enough and brave enough to build it. Now, before we get started today, I want to give a shout out to our amazing producer, John, and the team at Clear Rock. If you've been following along with the podcast these last few years, Clear Rock Studios in Windsor has been making us sound good and maybe look good for over the last couple of years, and we are so grateful to have them on their team. Now, this series of podcasts and this episode that you're about to watch today is part of a series that focuses in on our annual ScaleUP Accelerator. The ScaleUP Accelerator brought to you by the Government of Ontario and Libro Credit Union, as well as FedDev Ontario. Now, ScaleUP is a 6-month accelerator program that focuses on companies that are in that sweet spot going from 0 to 1. And so a lot of the questions today are going to be around that 0 to 1 phase. And you might be asking, what in the heck is 0 to 1? And I'm very glad you asked, because 0 to 1 is that point where a business goes from idea to impact. It starts to have real things like real customers, real challenges, and real constraints. And so when we're talking to these startups, they're at that point where real is becoming really tough. And so we're really excited to have these conversations today to dive into that very specific stage in a startup life cycle and have you learn along with us. So thank you so much and enjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Innovation Alchemy. I'm joined today by Taj Brah, CEO of Quotograph. Taj, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Adam.
So Taj, to jump right in, construction is a field of complexity, and they don't do bad software. If something doesn't work properly or it's too slow, it just doesn't get used. And so I know you're building something that's very specific and very transformative to the construction industry. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you today. So to kick us off, what does Quotograph do? What problem are you really solving, and why are you so determined to solve it?
Yeah, great question. And once again, thanks for having me on, Adam. Quotograph does construction automation. The way we do it is through visual input analysis. Now, without everyone falling asleep, what that really means is we analyze videos and images of construction sites, and we automate construction workflows. Workflows meaning estimating, measurements, creating project summaries, safety reports, actually all the boring stuff.
Yeah.
And the way we make sure people or contractors actually enjoy it and use it and don't get bored of it is by creating software for workflows that are traditional and will never go away, like estimating. So we initially had a marketplace where contractors could get extra work. That marketplace failed because contractors already have lots of work.
Yeah.
So we're solving problems that actually exist. That's
interesting. So you're taking these different challenges, different parts of the work that never have to go away, that have to be done. You're giving them a new kind of tool set to do that. How did you test out that tool set before you decided to kind of like build the project or the product? Like, how did you know it was going to work?
Yeah, so we initially actually created a marketplace where homeowners could sign up, take photos or videos of their project and get quotes for it and be connected with service providers. You know, we didn't earn a single dollar from that marketplace. So we actually did the opposite of your question, right? But we learned from our mistakes. We took that marketplace, we went to contractors and said, hey, look, we have this thing, it's not working, we don't know what to do. You know, if you were to use just some of this, is there any of this that you would actually pay for? Or maybe if we change it up, could you implement it? And that's when the ideas started coming from actual contractors themselves. Like, well, we do safety reports. Why don't you use this tech to help us do the safety report quicker, right?
Yeah.
Measurements, etc.
Yeah. Some of the biggest innovations that come out of today's time aren't using new technology. We've already had cameras, right? We've already had these systems for project management, but you're putting them together in a really different way. What about technology that you're using here allows this thing to work? What's the magic behind it?
Well, the way we brand it is we call it construction analysis technology. Basically, from the beginning of when we started in 2023, we've been working on collecting data, right? Data is the new oil. So what does it cost to even quote out a small renovation project to even a large, what does it cost to build a hospital? So all that data, whatever we've been able to basically capture and put all together, that's what is behind our construction analysis technology. So that's how we're able to power it. But in line with your question, like, it's not that complicated. It's just invoices, right?
Yeah, of course.
We're cameras, visual inputs, and data processing is not that complicated.
And a lot of data, right? Like you're taking a ton of information and making it simple to read and to action on, which I think is the hardest part, especially when you have folks that are on the ground, they're doing the work, and maybe they don't have a lot of time at the end of the day to do those reports and still spend time with their family, those types of things.
Yeah, or the mental energy to do the boring estimating, measurements, everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when you look at your product and you've done some validation, you were talking to people that do this work, what was something that was like most surprising about some of the feedback that you got in those early days?
Well, of course, the simplicity. So there's, we were trying to solve so many different problems in our marketplace, down to even like price disputes. So we're trying to connect the homeowner with the service provider, but then there's always, you hear the contractor hook where you pay a certain price, but then at the end, you get quoted a price, but then at the end, you pay double or triple it, right? Yeah. So we were trying to solve that problem in the marketplace as well. So yeah, the feedback was simplicity. Let's not solve too many problems. And then one kind of cool little thing was also gamification. So in our safety reports, it's not like 100% magic yet where we can create your reports instantly. You might still need to wait a minute or a couple of minutes if it's a very large video. You can actually play games. You can play Tetris so you don't get bored.
Cool.
Our customers, surprisingly, like that has been probably the number one feedback is like, when are you adding more games? What's the next game you're adding?
That's awesome.
I like doing stuff like that.
I love that. And Tetris is universally beloved. It's
everyone loves it.
That's awesome. So you talked a little bit about, first trying to solve maybe too many things. Talk a little bit more about that. Like, how did you overcomplicate things in the early days? And what do you have now in terms of simplification that makes it so much more usable?
Yeah, I think the initial idea was, if we want to be the best, we have to offer the most, right?
Sure. Yeah. I think that's like such a common startup kind of folly of like, I'm going to do everything and it's all going to work perfectly. It doesn't always pan out that way.
Yeah. So the issue is that you can't do everything, right? Yeah. And when you try to do everything, you spread yourself so thin that you don't do anything. Yeah. Right. So when we basically focus in and say, hey, if we just focus, for example, even like this month, we're only going to focus on contacting like plumbers, right? Commercial plumbers. That's where we see the most traction versus if we're just like shooting our like shots everywhere, we don't get very far. You might get a win here and there, but it's not focused energy where you can be making basically, win out, compounding wins.
Yeah. We've talked to a lot of the scale-ups about this, where it's like, you're taking on a system that's hard to change, that's been around for a really long time. If you focus in on something, they get really, really good at solving that like one problem or a set of problems. It makes everything happen a lot faster for the company. And it's just interesting to see like literally every company that we've talked to through these podcast series and ScaleUp has had the same challenge of like, we tried to do too much too early, and now we're having to like kind of course correct a little bit.
Of course.
It's just so interesting. When you're measuring the value of this product, right? Like, you've created something that's really unique. What it does is really unique in marketplace. It automates some things that have never been automated before. But value is still hard to measure, especially for a company in construction where the price of goods is continuously going on. The input cost is so high. How do you help them measure the value of this software?
Yeah, so we have a few different ways we can help them calculate it. We even have an ROI calculator on our website to make it very transparent. For example, for commercial plumbers, we have a tool where they can do all their takeoffs online or digitally.
Cool.
Now, what is a value there is like, you're not driving to Staples. Yeah. You're not printing off your blueprints. You're not being stuck in traffic and you're coming back. And, I don't mean to go back to your previous question, but, because we have been able to just focus in on one specific part, we've been able to learn all those specific things, which I just mentioned. Right. So that's how we're able to basically, pick one area and just basically compound our wins there.
So in measuring kind of the value of what this product does for companies, how are you helping them to like continuously measure like what they're getting out of it, right? Because there's a cost, there's the upfront cost of like spending money on the platform or the tool. Yeah. What do they get back for that? What's the exchange?
Yeah. So there's the cost savings, but also if you're able to do your estimating quicker, right? Yeah. You also have a higher chance of winning those jobs. So we'll also, what we'll do with our customers is we'll say, hey, look, try it out for a month. Yeah. Right? Just try it out for a month on us, right? And then after month 2, it's like they don't want to go back. Why? Because not only are they saving money, but it's like you're actually winning more jobs.
You're getting more jobs.
Right? Because if you can get back that bid in a couple hours, even compared to a couple of days. Like if you get it a couple of days, someone's already got that job. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So, it's so much more powerful.
There's value, and we measure value in actual jobs that these customers get and cost savings. And for even our safety reports, they're not showing up on site, Adam.
Right.
There's no CO2 emissions, right?
Yep.
There's vehicles, like there's a whole bunch of different things that we can basically pull
logistics.
from.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's really cool. This program is coming to a close. We still have the big pitch, obviously, in March, which is coming up really quickly. This program goes away, but WEtech doesn't. But what are some of the things that you're leaving with in terms of clarity that you have now versus when you kind of entered into this process?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, one of the biggest things through this program has been the coaches that we've been each given, and they've actually pushed me. I'll even give Paula a little shout out here, but just to take a step back, right? Yeah. And we've already talked about this, but it's like we should reiterate it because it's so important. But there was just too much going on for you to actually have any clarity and a vision and a plan of what to do, right? Yeah. So Paul would even ask me, like, Taj, you have, 2 platforms and you're working a third, and you have, staff that you need to manage as well. Like, how the hell do you do it all? What is your process, right? So now at the end of this, it's just like, I'm just more clear on the structure of the schedule of what I'm going to do, right? Even though I just know this week, like, I'm going to make X amount of calls, X amount of emails, have X amount of meetings. It just feels so much better. And I just feel so much more alive versus like, you're the feeling when you're running behind just to make it to your next meeting, and then you just finish and you're like, oh, what now?
Yeah,
another
next?
meeting, right? It's like, right? So just the clarity is so good.
That's awesome. And like making clarity out of that chaos of early entrepreneurship is such a tough one, because now's that time period too, where I find, before everything's fully baked, the opportunities for a product like yours is kind of endless, right? Like, you're going to see all of these places where it's like, oh, I could go there, or, oh, I could provide value to that, or, oh, I could do that. But having that clarity and focus means that maybe I'm doing something today that's going to benefit me in 6 months and not tomorrow. And that's okay. There doesn't have to be that immediate kind of return on my investment of time and effort and piece like into everything. So it's really cool that that's your takeaway. I just want to thank you so much for being a part of this program, for joining us here for today and this podcast, and just letting us be a part of the journey. We're so excited to continue watching it happen and supporting where we can.
No, thank you guys for all your support. Hack goes off to you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Adam.
Take care.